There are several potential reasons why an air conditioning window unit might fail to start, even if other electrical appliances in the house are functioning correctly. Insufficient voltage could be the issue. Use a voltmeter to verify the outlet is supplying the correct voltage, which should be 120 volts. If the voltage is significantly low, it can prevent the compressor from starting. Loose or corroded electrical connections could also inhibit power flow. Check the electrical connections at the outlet, the plug, and at the air conditioning unit itself. Look for any signs of looseness or corrosion. If corrosion is present, clean the connections carefully. A faulty capacitor is another possible cause. The capacitor helps start the compressor motor, and if it's defective, the compressor won't engage. Diagnosing a faulty capacitor often requires a qualified electrician. An overloaded circuit might also be to blame. If other high-power appliances, such as a refrigerator, microwave, or other air conditioners are operating simultaneously on the same circuit, it can cause the circuit to be overloaded, resulting in the lights dimming and preventing the air conditioning unit from starting. Try running the air conditioning unit when other high-power appliances are turned off to see if that resolves the issue. A defective compressor is another potential problem. If the compressor itself is malfunctioning, it can prevent the unit from cooling. This is a more serious issue that may require professional repair or replacement of the air conditioning unit. A refrigerant leak could also be the reason. A refrigerant leak can reduce the system's cooling capacity and prevent the compressor from operating properly. This will also typically require professional service. Dirty condenser coils can reduce heat transfer and strain the compressor. Regularly clean the coils to ensure optimal airflow. Consult the manufacturer's instructions for the proper cleaning procedure. Finally, frozen condenser coils can prevent the compressor from operating properly. If the coils are frozen, defrost them by turning off the air conditioning unit and allowing the ice to melt completely. Here are some troubleshooting tips. Firstly, always check the voltage at the outlet using a voltmeter. Secondly, inspect all electrical connections for tightness and any signs of corrosion. Thirdly, if you suspect a faulty capacitor, it's best to contact a qualified electrician for diagnosis and repair. Fourthly, try running the air conditioning unit when other high-power appliances are turned off to rule out an overloaded circuit. Fifthly, if the compressor sounds like it's trying to start but is unable to fully engage, the issue may be with the compressor itself or the refrigerant system, indicating a need for professional service. Sixthly, clean the condenser coils regularly according to the manufacturer's instructions to maintain optimal performance. Seventhly, if the condenser coils are frozen, turn off the air conditioning unit and allow them to thaw out completely before attempting to restart it. It is important to ensure the air filter is clean. A dirty air filter restricts airflow to the evaporator coil, which results in lower return air temperatures to the compressor. When this happens, the coil will begin to freeze up, resulting in little to no cooling and potential damage to the compressor. It is advisable to check the air filter at least every month, if not more often. The frequency will depend on how often the unit is used and the environment where the air conditioning unit is. Air conditioning units that are in a dusty environment will require more frequent filter changes. Air conditioning units have a thermal overload protector. If the unit is running and the load is too high or the cooling is insufficient, the unit can overheat, causing the thermal overload protector to shut off the compressor. This is a safety feature that will automatically reset. The unit will typically restart within an hour or so. If the unit is constantly tripping the thermal overload, then you will need to find out what is causing the unit to overheat. It could be a dirty condenser coil, a dirty air filter, a refrigerant leak, a faulty compressor, or a combination of these things. If the compressor is not starting due to a faulty capacitor, the capacitor can be tested with a multimeter. To do this, disconnect the capacitor from the circuit. Set the multimeter to measure capacitance. Touch the probes of the multimeter to the terminals of the capacitor. The multimeter should display the capacitance value of the capacitor. If the capacitance value is significantly lower than the rated value of the capacitor, then the capacitor is likely faulty and needs to be replaced. Capacitors are rated in microfarads, often abbreviated as MFD or UF. Another issue could be the start relay. The start relay is an electrical component that helps start the compressor. If the start relay is faulty, the compressor may not start. Start relays are typically located near the compressor. Start relays can be tested with a multimeter. To test the start relay, disconnect the start relay from the circuit. Set the multimeter to measure resistance. Touch the probes of the multimeter to the terminals of the start relay. The multimeter should display a low resistance value if the start relay is good. If the multimeter displays a high resistance value, then the start relay is likely faulty and needs to be replaced. Some window air conditioning units have a reset button. The reset button is typically located on the control panel. If the air conditioning unit is not working, try pressing the reset button. This may reset the unit and allow it to start working again. The air conditioning unit needs to be level so the water that forms in the evaporator coil can drain properly. If the unit is not level, the water can collect on the coil and freeze. This will prevent the unit from cooling properly. The air conditioning unit also needs to be properly sized for the room. If the air conditioning unit is too small, it will not be able to cool the room properly. If the air conditioning unit is too large, it will cycle on and off too frequently, which can shorten the life of the unit. If the air conditioning unit is not cooling properly, check the temperature of the air coming out of the unit. The air should be at least 15 degrees colder than the air going into the unit. If the air is not that cold, then the unit may need to be serviced. It is important to make sure that the air conditioning unit is properly grounded. A properly grounded unit will help to protect against electrical shock. The grounding wire should be connected to a metal pipe or grounding rod. If there are other appliances on the same circuit as the air conditioning unit, try moving them to a different circuit. This can help to reduce the load on the circuit and prevent the air conditioning unit from tripping the circuit breaker. Some air conditioning units have a delay timer. The delay timer prevents the air conditioning unit from starting immediately after it has been turned off. This can help to protect the compressor from damage. If the air conditioning unit has a delay timer, wait a few minutes after turning it off before turning it back on. There is a thermal expansion valve. The thermal expansion valve, or TXV, controls the flow of refrigerant into the evaporator coil. If the thermal expansion valve is not working properly, it can cause the air conditioning unit to not cool properly. The thermal expansion valve can be tested by a qualified technician. Sometimes ice will form on the suction line. If ice is forming on the suction line, it is a sign that the air conditioning unit is low on refrigerant. The air conditioning unit will need to be serviced by a qualified technician to add refrigerant to the system. Air conditioning units also have pressure switches. Pressure switches are safety devices that protect the compressor from damage. If the pressure in the system is too high or too low, the pressure switch will trip and shut off the compressor. Pressure switches can be tested by a qualified technician. Condensate drain lines can get clogged. The condensate drain line is a small tube that carries the water that condenses on the evaporator coil to the outside of the house. If the condensate drain line is clogged, the water can back up into the air conditioning unit and cause damage. The condensate drain line can be cleaned with a wet/dry vacuum cleaner. Window air conditioning units have fan motors. The fan motor is responsible for circulating air through the unit. If the fan motor is not working properly, the air conditioning unit will not cool properly. Fan motors can be tested with a multimeter. The fins on the coils can be bent. The fins on the coils help to transfer heat. If the fins are bent, they will not be able to transfer heat as effectively. The fins can be straightened with a fin comb. If the air conditioning unit is still not working properly after trying these troubleshooting steps, it is recommended to contact a qualified technician for assistance.